we have a little timer on here letting somebody know how long it's going to be. But producer Dan's not with us today, so there's no timer. And I don't actually know when we're live, but I think we're live now. I think so.
It looks like we're on the air to me. So
does it? All right, good. Well, hey, Robb Ryerse tucked away in a secret location somewhere outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Doug Pagitt in Minneapolis, just outside of Minneapolis, actually, right on the edge today. Love to know where you are, so let us know where you're coming from. Tuesdays, it's Politics Day, May 2nd. How'd you spend your May Day yesterday, Rob? Did you have a special May Day?
I was working, doing the
just making America great, right?
That's right. That's right. I was just working, doing my labor, working on May Day.
I mean, truthfully, aren't there days when people like you and I who have jobs like we have, where you work from home, you're self-directed, you're trying to make good in the world? There's days where you just think, I need to do things today to tell myself I'm working hard, right? Like it's like having an internal boss roaming around in your head, just constantly reminding you that, you've got stuff to do. That was my day yesterday too. I'm like, okay, it's May 1st. Stuff to do. There's no boss. There's no, supervisor. There's nobody punching the clock. But inside my head, holy moly. Do you ever get that? Do you get that kind of thing? Or are you?
I'm really driven by the to-do list. I've got this great to-do list app. It's called Motion, and it's driven by artificial intelligence. And what it does is
you have an
I have gladly embraced our future AI overlords. And once again, I'm sorry, I got distracted by Jim in the chat, who once again is coming in with a $1.99 super chat comment. I don't even know what that means. He said that last week.
Good morning, Jim from Ventura. Yeah, it's just spectacular. Jim with a $1.99 super chat. If they're charging you for every comment, Jim, you're being overcharged, because these are free. Anybody watching this now, if you go over to YouTube, you too can chat on in.
So I've got this app that schedules my day for me, and I put in the things I need to do, and it shuffles them based on priority and in between meetings. And if I don't get something done, it's not a big deal. It'll just resurface it another time. And it's for an Enneagram 3 like me, it's a good app.
Huh. Does your AI app know you well enough to know how long it will take you to do things?
No.
That kind of stuff? Not really.
We haven't gotten to that point yet. Okay, but you remember the movie Her?
Yes.
Where the operating system comes to life and Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with it because it has the voice of Scarlett Johansson.
Is that why?
Yeah. That, and I really the only other woman that Vanessa would need to worry about in my life would be
your AI,
Siri. Yeah, basically.
Well, I posted this on a social media thing the other day that I have an Apple Watch, which is connected to my, it's like Siri on my wrist.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I've got an Apple Watch story too.
I don't want to know where you put your Apple Watch, considering your, imbalanced relationship with that Siri voice. But Rob, I will say I have my daily Siri reminder has very low expectations of me. Just happened now.
Stand up.
I simply stood up and it alerted me and said, "Congratulations, you stood up." Apparently, long time viewers of this stream and podcast will know I work at a standing desk that I lower down to put a chair next to it, so I'm actually sitting. It is just horrendous. Sitting is the new smoking, and apparently I'm going to sit here for an hour. All right, Rob.
So,
Lots of
well,
things.
listen. Let me tell you my amazing
Oh,
my
please.
Apple
Okay.
Watch story. My Apple Watch, it has learned my routine,
Uh-huh.
and so on Wednesday mornings when Vanessa and I go to Susan's,
Which is
is
a
like
restaurant.
which, yes, a restaurant where we have breakfast, wonderful place. Um, I get in the car and on Wednesday mornings, and my watch tells me it'll take you 11 minutes to get to Susan's.
Mm-hmm.
It will tell me, uh, how long it takes to get to the cigar shop, because it just knows where I'm going. One day I got in the car, Doug, and
Mm-hmm.
it blew my mind. I got in the car. This is last week, and I was going to go to the post office to check up a post office box that I have for a little political action committee that I do some work with, and going to see if there's checks in the mailbox. Doug, my Apple Watch said it, like, just automatically said it'll take you 12 minutes to get. It didn't say to the post office. Didn't give me the address. It gave me literally the post office box number I was going to.
Really?
I was shocked.
Is it in a reminder, a calendar setting somewhere in there? Do
I
you have?
don't think so. I don't think so. I have no idea
Yeah.
how it knew the exact box number I was going
Yeah.
to.
It
Blew my
is.
mind.
Well, be careful out there with your little Siri friend. You might. And I guess I'm just falling into the trap. I'm assigning a gender based on the tone of a voice.
Mm,
Just let that
yeah.
remind you about what we shouldn't be doing with all this. Mine does the same. And if you're not into Apple Watches, sorry to bore you with this, but mine does the same. Somehow, every once in a while, my watch and my phone will just be like, it'll take you this long to get so and so, and I'm like, how in the world did it
Yep.
know I was going there? So I must have the data in there somewhere because
Or it just recognizes the routine that you do the same thing every Wednesday morning. It knows, okay, it's
oh yeah,
Wednesday
you go
morning. This
there.
is what,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
because I'm reaching a stage in life where there's sometimes I walk out to my car, get in my car, and I can't remember where I'm going for a brief moment, right? There are times where I'm like, "Oh, okay, good. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. That is what it is Thursday, and that is what I do. I take care of a child on Thursdays. That's a good.
mm,
That's a good reminder. Hey, Rob. Politics this week, just
mhm,
just clicking right along in its
mm.
regular old bit of nonsense. But
Yep.
we're reminded by the fragility of life with the passing of Gordon Lightfoot. I don't know if you're a Gordon Lightfoot fan, but
Boy.
if you're not, and all of you, if we could, if the internet algorithms wouldn't block this feed, if we were to play, if you could read my mind, a song written
Yeah.
and sung by Gordon Lightfoot, it is one of the great contributions to humanity. That song,
Yeah.
just so good, and I can't hear it without thinking, "What's eating at you, Gordon?"
Yeah.
And I've heard him talk about the song. I've never seen him live, but I've watched live performances of him with the song, and he's like, I'm not totally sure what it's about either. But boy, it's a real gift. And um, I honestly, I mean, I followed Gordon Lightfoot enough in recent years to know that he was still touring like a year ago. Had I not, I probably would have thought, wow, he's still alive, because Gordon Lightfoot's voice has sounded like an old man in my head since I was a child. How is this man only, but I guess, he's, I don't know, 28 years older than I am. So he was a 28-year-old when I was born. So anyway, that's the thing. But what a cat. You have any Gordon Lightfoot stories you want to?
I feel like I was probably born about maybe 5, maybe 10 years too late to, have any specific thoughts about Gordon Lightfoot. Um, it's one of those things that I'm sure I would recognize some of his songs if I heard them, but I could not identify them. Even when you mentioned, if you could read my mind, I was like, oh, that's Gordon Lightfoot. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, there you go. This will
I know the
happen then.
song, I just don't know the guy.
Look, I don't know what you use, if it's Apple Music service or
I'm a
Amazon
I'm a
Music, or
Spotify
if you
guy.
use Joe Rogan's outlet, Spotify. Um, just pull up a Gordon Lightfoot playlist, and
I'll
you
do
will
that
not
today.
only be pleasantly surprised,
Yeah.
but you will be like, There is someone I wish I'd spent more time with as a musical performer. So Gordon Lightfoot, but I remember as a child, I don't know, maybe early teens, late childhood, early teens. th- at that time, I think in America overall, but certainly where I was, there was a big native movement, like native culture stuff, right? There were songs
Yeah.
about the Cherokee people, and there was just
Yep.
this movie Billy Jack that got in my head and sort of corrupted me in good ways. And anyway, there was just a lot of like paying attention to reconciling indigenous peoples in the United States. And Gordon Lightfoot had one of those names that sounded like an indigenous because he's from Canada. And as a kid, I didn't know what Gordon Lightfoot looked like until I finally saw Gordon Lightfoot, and then it was like, wow, he was also a very handsome man. But he had the added intrigue to me of sort of having a name of the what to me as a kid was the very cool indigenous peoples movements of the 1970s. So, and I don't know if you're comfortable listening to Alec Baldwin. The actor. You old enough to know who that is?
Yeah, I do know Alec Baldwin, who's currently
30
charged
Rock.
with manslaughter.
They dropped charges, fortunately, for
Oh,
those of us who enjoy his podcast, and not to diminish the horror of that
I think
that
I
terrible
think he's being. I think
shooting.
there's a civil suit
There
happening.
probably is. Yes, I
Hmm.
would imagine that the rest of his life this will be something because he fired the gun on a set that had a live round in it, which we'll get to some rants about the stupidity of guns overall. But Gordon
Seriously.
Lightfoot has an interview with Alec Baldwin on Alec Baldwin's podcast called Here's the Thing that is just terrific. So if you're out on a walk and you're like, I'm just going to do a little deep dive, you will do nothing but good for yourself to get into a little Gordon Lightfoot. So, um, all right. And other people are saying I recommend Tony Rice singing Gordon Lightfoot. Well, how about that, Phyllis? There's something. Um, see, Jim, you are just on it again. Uh, we didn't even put together the phrase you could read if you could read my mind with the comments about the fact that your Siri was telling you what was going on, and Jim was good enough to say yes, Siri could be singing if I could read your mind, which I can in your calendar. All right, so thankfulness to the Gordon Lightfoot goodness that's all coming around. But Rob, what do you think about what's happening on this debt ceiling business? I think I've always thought this debt ceiling thing was just again that's just the way politics are done with two sides when the House is controlled by someone the party different than the White House. But boy,
Yeah.
these people are starting to spook me that they're actually going to come to a point where they're going to default or come up with some shenanigans or shut a government down or do some other ridiculousness that's going to lead to absolutely no good and
Yeah.
nothing's going to come from
Yeah. It's political theater. It's political chicken that they're playing, and it shows that the thing that they care about, um, and I would mostly put this on Republicans. The thing that they care about is scoring political points. They don't care about helping people. They don't care about the services that people depend on. They like I think there is an honest lack of compassion, empathy, just basic human kindness that has been eliminated by this unwavering commitment to a principle of self-sufficiency, and should never be dependent on the government, and government spending is wrong all the time unless
it. Yeah.
it's the military. And that has squeezed out any care or concern
Mm.
for the practical implications of what this kind of reckless game of political chicken, like, I mean, it, Joe Biden really is in a real difficult situation, because what's he supposed to do? Does he kowtow to the
Mm.
fanatics on the right, or does he let the fanatics on the right, blow the whole thing up?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I just, one other thing. I think that based on everything that we've learned about modern monetary theory and um, a sovereign government issuing currency and how the government is funded and all of that we have learned from our friend Fadl Kaboub here on this podcast. Um, I think all of this is like, it's all a sham. Like it's like they're playing games with something that's not reality.
Right.
Which makes it even more maddening that there is there's nothing here. There's no substance here. There's
Totally.
a perception here. It's like when the stock market, when there's a run on the stock market because there's a perception that something might be happening. Um, it's This
Yeah.
whole thing is super
Yeah, look, I think
frustrating
we'll
to
talk
me.
about this more. I think we'll do a special edition on Thursday to talk about this. And if people are interested in how the debt works versus deficit, because this debt ceiling is not the same as the national debt. Okay, so we'll. I know sometimes I get long-winded when I start describing this stuff, but so I won't do that now. But we'll do it on Thursday. So, but I'll just say this: the national debt is the amount of money that federal government has generated in its history of existence, 235, 40 years, less the amount of money that's coming in taxes. The difference in those is what's called the deficit. Okay, that's that. This debt ceiling, Congress sets an amount of money that the federal government can take in, and then the Congress sets a budget of the amount of money they're going to spend every year, and the difference in those is created by Congress, by this very same house. And when there's a difference in those amounts, they call that the debt ceiling. So then they have to go get money from other places to pay for the totally separate thing than how much money is in the deficit. So if you're a deficit worrier, the U.S. owes all this money to China. We'll debunk all that stuff. We don't owe money to China or anybody else. It's not how it works. But this thing is created on a budget year by budget year problem, created by Congress. All they have to do is just raise the amount of money. They don't even have to borrow it. They could just make the two balance, and they don't do it. So you're right. It is nothing but theater. And here's what really gets me about this. What they're negotiating now is not previous decisions. It's all about unraveling the things Joe Biden set forth as his agenda and was passed by the previous Congress for future spending. So instead of winning elections and then putting forth the agenda of the winners, what McCarthy's trying to do, he's trying to say, we want you to unravel the things that you were allowed to do by winning the election, and we want to use this temporary debt ceiling as the leverage to do it. It's just the worst way to think about how we're going to set priorities in this country. So it's just totally broken. I think Biden is not going to flinch. I think they're going to say, they're going to find a workaround, right, which is some kind of temporary, and then they're going to say, we will negotiate on some of these other spending priorities, mostly because the spending priorities that the Republicans want to negotiate on literally are a decade away. It's how much money will be spent over the next 10 years on things. So there's no problem negotiating that now, because when Republicans lose the House in a year and a half in the 2024 election, they'll just roll back and fix the problem that they're going to unravel now for 8, 9, and 10 years down the road. So it's, to your point, it's totally useless and ridiculous. And if they shut the government down again and put people who depend on the government, both people who receive services, but also people who are employees, the federal government is the largest employer in the United States. And more people depend on federal government paychecks in order to run their own lives. And if you're any employer and you can't pay your people, know this really well, and you can't pay your people, you normally feel horrible about that and do everything you can to get to the point where you can pay them. Instead, these Republicans are saying we're going to actually cause the reason for us not paying these people ourselves. It's just utter madness. Hey, and what do you think about
It,
this? That Janet Yellen comes out and says, "Hey, we've been running the numbers, and after tax day that happened the other day, and people paid us, and then we had to send people back tax refunds. We didn't take in as much money as we thought we were going to, so we can't make it till July. We can only probably make it till June 1st or maybe June 4th, or somewhere in there. Like, hey, 2017 tax cut. How did that go then? Remember when this same group of people were in charge of Congress, in charge of the House, and they made that huge tax cut because it was just going to make all the economy go so great. Just they're wrong about all the things that they're in charge of, these Republicans, and that's only a slight overstatement. That it's all of the things. There's probably something that's important that they're not wrong about. I just can't think of what it is currently, but there probably is something. Got anything more on this ridiculousness that we're doing?
No,
this
it's
again?
just super frustrating. Frustrating.
And in the meantime, old Speaker of the House running around out of the country. Joe Biden's going to Asia like next week. Like people are just kicking along, doing their other thing, and they're going to negotiate this over the phone. And somehow something's going to be given to unbelievably Matt Gaetz or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like these are the people who are going to get things out of this negotiation.
Yep.
This little group of wackadoodles who do absolutely nothing, or no bills Jim Jordan, who has zero bills that he has sponsored that have ever been passed. As a lawmaker, he's horrible at it, but instead he will get to leverage and get what he wants because he can't seem to do it by passing a bill, which is what lawmakers are supposed to do. It's just really just wacky, just unbelievably silly bits. Hey, this week, every year I get to have a little rant about the correspondence dinner, this big gala that all the reporters and all the TV personalities go to a huge ballroom and have a big dinner. And this year, Roy Wood Jr., who's a comedian, was the MC. I don't even know Roy Wood Jr. Do you know him as a comedian? Yeah, I realized, wow, I need to be funnier. I don't even know who the comedians are that they pull in for this, because they often pull in very high profile people. And I saw a few clips of him. He seems like a very funny man. So maybe now I have a new comedic channel to follow.
Yeah, great bit about Clarence Thomas, where he called Clarence Thomas an NFT.
It was great. I mean, just like, okay, if you're going to have a correspondence dinner, that's the kind of humor that's great, right? A Supreme Court justice and an NFT wrapped together in a joke upon a joke is just perfect. But the idea that this happens, that sometimes we like to refer to in this country, as the that the press is some form of the government, right? One of the fourth rail or whatever, the fourth
branch.
Thank you, fourth branch of the government. But look, what we want is an adversarial relationship between the press and the government. That's what you want. Now, adversarial doesn't mean that you're always arguing, but it does mean that you have different interests, that one side has a set of interests that are different than another side. We need our press to be able to lean into, press on the government to tell things they don't want to tell, and to tell the population things that you otherwise wouldn't know if the press wasn't on the job, right? That's what you want out of the press. And every time they get together and have one of these, we're all in the same club meetings with the president and the leaders of Congress and the media people all sitting, all dressed up. And I've listened to these political podcasts where they talk about the outfits people are wearing and being all fancy pants and having a big dinner and laughing and we're all in this. Like that is just, to me, far too cozy. Like, let each of you have your own little annual party. But this thing, like, pull the press all in, cheer them on, rub their backs, tell them they're great. It is just bad for democracy. And I can't stand it. And I just wish politicians and legitimate press people would say, you know what, I actually don't need to eat a $96 meal served to me at a table and get dressed up in a fancy outfit. I can put that together myself or go to a family member's wedding if I need that. It is just all plays into the insider Washington nonsense that goes on. And so every year, somewhere around April, I just become this codgety old man yelling at my TV, telling the kids to get off my grass because I can't stand that they do this. And they do it every year. And they stand up and tell these silly little jokes and have joke writers. And like the comedy show, the variety show at the end of the week of summer camp that they pull off every year here just makes me nuts. And yes, of course, I'm just bitter that I've never been invited. Of course, I just check my mailbox and my email box and just wait on that invitation. That's all this is. I'm just really wanting to, not at all. First of all, not press, not anywhere near that level of significance to the common good of our democracy. But the people who are, they shouldn't be in that room. And they should all come out every time this thing happens and tell the rest of us, hey, I'm not going because this is ridiculous. This is the cozy kind of relationship that that just shouldn't exist between the freedom of the press to be an adversarial relationship with our government at the state, local, and federal level. That's how it should be. Do you have any opinions about this, or am I a man just ranting alone?
I have a follow-up question for you. So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying, Doug, is that you're not a fan of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
It's not the dinner itself. I have no
Okay.
I have no problems with people having a meal.
No problems with the rubbery chicken and
or did you
broccoli
get the steak, or did you get the totally. And that's the other thing. What kind of quality meal is this? Well, and then the worst part of it, Rob, thanks for rewinding my little wind up toy. Then they have after parties. Not only is this the thing, but then they do an after party after it where they're also cozying up. And God, it just gets me. Look, and I'm not generally complaining about the media, and the media doesn't do its job. I actually think we have a tremendous industry of press and media in the United States. It's not always saying the things I wish it would say, should say more, it could do more, but on the whole, it's pretty incredible. And it's built around this like insider knowledge thing, and certain people are tied in. And look, I get it. People are working the same world and they fall in love with each other. So there's people who are in the press who are married to somebody who works in an administration or works for a congressperson, and it gets complicated and all the rest of that. But when it does, you should tell the rest of us, hey, there might be a little conflict of interest here. And don't have your big annual party that you brag about to the rest of us while you all sit in a room and huck it up while the rest of us are like, hey, is there going to be, is there a problem coming? Because this is the kind of thing that makes an average person feel like maybe the press isn't doing its job.
My favorite thing that I have heard the White House Correspondents' Dinner be called, nickname for it is Nerd Prom.
All right. See, and if it was just nerdiness, right? That what we're dealing with here is just, oh, look at all the nerds having their little thing. It's Comic-Con of political reporting, right? And people are like, but that's not the thing. These like, you're talking about the president of the United States, the leaders of the Senate, the most powerful political operators in the world, presidential candidates. By the way, I saw your cat there. Old Asa Hutchinson finally got himself invited to the Correspondents' Dinner. So it's people running for president, current president, and then it's people running the largest media groups. Like they're not.
I'll tell you.
Yes, they are nerds in one sense, but it's not school newspaper nerds. Like, oh, you didn't get to come to the real prom, so you went to this one. These are the people like, no, we run this shit. We run the whole deal. That's what gets me about it. And then they're all like, oh, did you hear that joke? Boy, that was a great one. Like, no, you know what? I didn't hear that joke because we're out here working like crazy trying to make a light. Here I go. Here I go. Here I go.
And the White House Correspondents' Dinner is what gave us Donald Trump as president.
Totally. Well, we're going to get to two things today that led to Donald Trump.
Was it 2015? Was it 2014 or 2015? I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, I think it was 15.
But Donald Trump attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Barack Obama made fun of him and picked on him, and and everybody was laughing except Donald Trump. And that was the moment he decided he was going to run for president.
Yeah, he was not going to be. But here's the point. In 2015, what is Donald Trump doing at a meeting with the president and the press, right? This is what I'm getting at. This is the thing. And look, Marilyn, thanks for your comment. I'm not saying we don't need the press. I'm saying we need the press to do the press thing. And by cozying up at an annual dinner, it's not the way we should appreciate the press. If we want to appreciate the press, I don't know, like subscribe to their newspapers or there's a lot of ways to do this. That's not to give an invitation to the correspondence dinner. Are you an insider that gets to go eat meals and rub shoulders and get dressed up and be all fancy? Because, this isn't Teacher Appreciation Week. By God, if there was a Teacher Appreciation Week where teachers could go have a dinner with the president, that would be great. In fact, the president should go to 50 states and have a teacher appreciation dinner. That's what they should do. You know how I feel about this, Rob? I feel about this when I'm boarding an airplane with Delta Airlines. And Delta Airlines says, hey, if you need a little extra time getting on the aircraft, this is for you. Maybe you've got a lot to carry. Maybe your body doesn't work so great. I love it. It's so great. Do you need a little extra time? The rest of us will wait. Take your time. Fabulous. Followed by, and if you're an active member of the military service, you also get to get on now. Okay. Active members of the military, do they really need to get on airplanes earlier? Why is that? You know who doesn't get to get on the airplanes earlier? Hey, are you a person that's caring for an elderly parent at home and you're kind of exhausted and you're flying home from that, or you're flying to do that? Do you need a little break here? We'd like for you to get on early. Hey, are you a school teacher that cares for 28 children because we refuse to fund education in a way that's going to allow you to get on? No, you stand in the back and wait while we let the 22-year-old recruit get on the plane. Why do
in peak physical condition
the military people to get on an airplane earlier? What's the wink and nod? This is the stuff that just, like, I'm not saying we shouldn't thank our military. We do every time we make an auto deposit and pay their bills and do their stuff, and we should thank them, and they should have an award and all that for people that volunteered for the service. But other people also do good things, and that's what gets me about this.
Okay. So I'm gonna see if I can keep spinning.
No. You're gonna keep trying to wind me up. It's not easy on a day like, not hard on a day like today, Rob. It just really gets me.
Did you see the news that Bernie Sanders has announced that he's not going to run for president in 2024 and has in fact endorsed Joe Biden?
I did see that. Yeah. In fact, said, I will do everything I can to be sure that he's reelected.
And what are your thoughts about the things that Bernie Sanders has done?
I think
when he references everything, should he give an apology every time he says that for what he didn't do in 2016? For sure, absolutely. Because the Trump Bernie bros is what caused all that stuff to happen, for sure. But glad to see it. Welcome aboard. And if you ever want to join the Democratic Party, Bernie, I'm sure they would have you. So keep up the good work there, pal. Do you have any thoughts about Bono I love, though? And U2 beginning?
You know what my favorite is, Rob? Bernie Sanders' signature bill, the bill that he has advocated for, pushed through Congress, and got passed to benefit the American people. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, no one knows which one I'm talking about. There isn't one. So again, I don't mind people being pundits. I don't mind people moving the needle. I don't mind people advocating for positions. That's absolutely 100% what we should do. But if you're a lawmaker, you should make laws. If you're a lawmaker, you should make laws that benefit people.
If
I
you're a
don't
White
like it
House
that
correspondent, you
you
should
shouldn't go.
correspond from the White House.
You should just correspond and not be rubbing shoulders. So I'm just saying, I prefer
Amazing.
the lawmakers to make laws and the press to be in an adversarial relationship with us. But you know who doesn't go to the
Yes,
correspondence dinner though? Truly,
adversarial, but not acrimonious.
sure, yeah, yeah. It's like our legal system. Our legal
Mm-hmm.
system is designed to be adversarial. I have a friend
Yep.
who's a lawyer, and I've gone to him on a couple of lawyerly things. Um, personal and business things,
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hey, do you think we need to like engage the law on this thing?" And uh, my attorney will say, "Yeah, again, the legal system is designed to be adversarial, meaning you're going to have one
Mm-hmm.
position on one side, another position on the other, and you're going to negotiate that one's going to get what they want and the other one's not, or you're both going to get something not of what you want. If you want to work this out another way, give them a call, talk about it, negotiate it yourself. You don't have to be adversarial, but as soon as you file that legal uh,
Mm-hmm.
process, you are by definition now, I have your back and I'm not concerned about what they get. That's designed that way. That's the way parts of our system are designed. The press and the media is that way. But you know who I do respect for not going to the correspondence dinner? Bernie Sanders. He doesn't go. He's like, I don't know. I'm not going. Because the guy knows what's going on. Because the guy's got his finger on the pulse. Often his own, because there's concerns, as we all do. I was at a spin class the other day, and the guy made me put my hand on my. He said, check your pulse there. You doing all right? You gonna fall off that thing? All right, correspondence dinner.
Oh,
Goodbye.
wow.
Gripe about you in a year.
Oh,
Just
fantastic.
just utterly ridiculous. Hey, in the
Speaking of
midst,
utterly
Rob,
ridiculous.
of another horrible tragedy where a citizen killed other citizens in this country with weapons in a moment of fleeting rage, this horrible story from outside of Houston where a neighbor shot and killed 5 members of a family of the people living next door to him and now is on the run. At the same time, elected representative Lauren Boebert was having a rally at a little place, a little fundraiser, holding up a shirt with an AR-15 on it that says, "Since we're redefining everything, this is a cordless hole puncher." An AR-15 is a hole puncher. A T-shirt that she's standing next to. Now, I don't know if she made the shirt or if the man gave her the shirt. There's a very odd-looking fella with multiple pairs of sunglasses standing next to her and something in his pocket. Maybe he gave her the shirt. I don't know. But she's holding it up with a proud smile on her face. There is no world in Rob where an elected lawmaker should be making jokes about how an AR-15 style rifle makes holes, because it's designed to make holes in people. That's what it does. And Lauren Boebert has no sensibility or no empathy for the many people for whom an AR-15 is not a symbol of their constitutional right to bear arms, but rather is a tool in which has inflicted holes in children and adults across the country. It's just in such bad taste. Now, did she do it intentionally because she knew that something was going to happen that same day in Houston? Probably not. But here's the thing. On any day in America, you can't hold up that shirt because it's possible,
Yep.
dare I say likely, that someone will put a hole in another human being with that very weapon. It is just, this is the cult of guns in this country.
Yes. And and we layer on top of that, you're absolutely right on the critique of the really tactless and inappropriate joke about the AR-15 being a cordless hole puncher. Uh, Also, the like here we're also going to take take this opportunity to, slap down the trans and non-binary community as well. Like that's the other since we're redefining everything. This is
Oh, I see. Hmm.
like it continue to
Wow.
marginalize, dehumanize, make fun of, like, people in our community, in our society, in our country who I barely have words. It's so infuriating.
There's 10 words. I love what you're saying. There's 10 words on this shirt. It reads, since we're redefining everything, this is a cordless hole puncher. 10 words. I was most bothered by the last 3 words, cordless hole puncher. You were rightly bothered by the first 3 words, since we're redefining everything, to mock the idea that we have to make some fresh definitions of how we understand one another's. That's also something that is to be just trivialized and thrown away. It's 10 words, 6 of which are personally and politically offensive.
Yeah.
It's simply, well, I should say, to people with at least our sensibilities, it's offensive. I'm guessing there are people who thought those are 10 great words.
Oh,
10
yeah.
just spectacular words. And look, and Marilyn makes a really good point here too, that the governor of Texas, for whom he was announcing that he was giving $50,000 from some fund that he has control of to help the manhunt for the murderer who killed his family in Texas with an AR-15, by the way, in response to a conversation about an AR-15, as it turns out. So in this case, it really was about the gun. Mm-hmm. That the governor of Texas noted the immigration status of the victims. That's a curious thing, that he would bring up the immigration status, for which is the fault of our federal government. The fact that people can't immigrate to the United States and have documentation, that's not their fault.
No,
right?
No, I mean, it's the incompetent bureaucracy in Washington D.C.'s fault. And frankly, since we're on this, breaking news on Fox News, foxnews.com, they've learned that the president is seriously considering sending troops to the southern border as Title 42 expires, which is just really not the right plan. But beyond, but I mean, what Greg Abbott
sends troops to the United States border, I am going to have a press correspondence dinner like reaction to that. That is so.
This is
unbelievably
sources tell. Here we
inappropriate.
Here we go.
Call your president and tell him not to continue the militarization of the border. That is not what is needed at the border.
Yeah. So here's the story. The Biden administration is considering whether to send 1,500 active duty U.S. troops to the southern border in the coming days, amid concerns that tens of thousands of migrants will surge into the country once Title 42 is lifted. U.S. soldiers would come from a
I'm going to have an aneurysm about this, Rob. Okay, here's the thing. People want to talk about these refugee seekers and immigrants as if they're lawbreakers. Why does lifting Title 42, which is just a protocol by which the government can choose to respond to people and setting aside previous protocols.
How is Title 42? Like, it's the force field that's keeping people out.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, there's tens of thousands of people who've said, hey, if I don't have access to the United States because of new ways that you can use to keep me out in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, that's Title 42, meaning that the people at the border can say, we don't have to deal with you right now. We have an emergency going on, and we have a Title 42 declaration of emergency, so we don't have to deal with you right now. So you have to come back later. They've waited 2.5 years, and then when it gets lifted, they're like, okay, now we can come. You know what that sounds like to me? People who are following the rules. So when you hear people say to you, "Oh, these people are going to overrun us," and they could have the same people could have crossed any given day. They're literally, Rob, waiting until
You
it's
yes,
legal to do
right.
it.
You
It's
caused the traffic jam at the southern border, metaphorically, and now you're complaining about it. But
and then
I
you're
mean, it's
lifting the traffic jam, and then you're saying, well, and the people are going to be lawless. We have to send the military in to support them. Look, if you didn't hire enough people to care for our southern border and the number of people who need to come in,
yeah,
because we're more than 2 million migrants short in the United States to have a proper functioning economy.
yeah,
We need millions more, like we've had in previous years, to be part of the economic system of the United States. And if you weren't prepared for that, you don't send the military in to do
yeah.
it. Look, I want Joe Biden to be the next president. He's the duly elected president now, by the way, in case anyone was wondering our opinion on that. And I want him to be the next duly elected president of the United States. But this is not the way to be the president.
Right, right. Yeah,
It's
and
unbelievable.
I little side rant there, but I mean, jumping back to Greg Abbott, which is, the reason Greg Abbott, I think, um, mentioned the immigration status of the victims in the shooting, I think, is to um, play into the dehumanization that exists of immigrants in our country,
Mm-hmm.
and um, to downplay the significance of the loss of life. I think that
Yes.
there are some people who will say, well, they were here illegally. They got what was coming to them,
Mess with the bull, get the
and
horn kind of nonsense. Yep.
yeah, and it's a reminder of every time. So George, I saw a headline too related to George Floyd. If George Floyd passed a counterfeit $20 bill in that corner store, as some people have alleged, the punishment for passing a counterfeit $20 bill is not death,
Right.
right? That's not the punishment for it. Just because, if if someone's you know running through a neighborhood and stops to look at home construction and trespasses,
Mm-hmm.
the punishment for trespassing is not death. And there's too many people who think, wow, they'll just willing to
Yeah.
escalate it up to the very top. And I think Greg Abbott is playing into that with these comments by trying to dehumanize these folks,
Totally.
trying to downplay the significance of their death. These are deaths we shouldn't, like, who really
Yeah.
cares? Like, they're illegal immigrants. They're not
Right.
real people. They're not real
Yeah.
Americans.
Totally. Totally. To put any title on people, especially illegal immigrants, like that's not even grammatically correct. It's just a
Mm,
slur. You're
yes.
not illegal. It's not illegal to be an immigrant. You can't be an illegal immigrant. You can be in the country with legal documentation or legal permission or not, but doesn't make you one, right?
Hmm.
It'd be like saying someone's an illegal driver. You're not an illegal driver. You might not have legal authorization to drive, but that's not the way you describe a person. You're describing a behavior. If you need to
Hmm.
meet with your therapist or you need to meet with your counselor, you need to meet with your clergy person to help you understand the difference between what you do and who you are, Governor Abbott, that would be really good work. You should do that work because you're having a difficult time, apparently, or anybody who uses the term illegal immigrant or illegals. That's not how we describe people. Like we should across the board. And we have this habit of doing it, to your point, because that's how you dehumanize people, right? You put any title on them to say that is the person, as opposed to it's a person who has this particular circumstance. You say it is that. That's the point of it. It is
Yeah.
absolutely to say it's not about the guns, it's about the status of people. Then they put out an apology, a clarification yesterday
Hmm.
that said, oh, as it turns out, one of the 5 people who were murdered in Texas was a person with U.S. citizenship. We apologize, they said, for any miscommunication. So they didn't walk back that it's inappropriate to refer to victims of murder by their legal status, which is something not in their control. They wanted to clarify one of the people was someone.
They misidentified. Yeah. We didn't mean to insult you.
Our slur was only intended for 4 of the 5.
Yes.
Incredible. But this is just what's in this is the thing. It's not even noticed by people. Right? It's just.
It is so commonplace.
Yes. It's just part of the fabric of the whole thing. And look, there are no bills in front of Congress now. There are no bills in front of any state legislature currently that would solve for any of the murders that have happened this year that you've known about. The public ones that have been in the news, not this one this week, not the one in Louisville, not the one in Ohio, none of them. Nashville, none of the laws, not the red flag laws, not the background checks, none of that stuff. So we should pass all those bills. We have to remember, those will not solve the problem that we all want, which is children not being killed in schools, people not being killed at work, people not being killed at country music festivals, Congress people not being shot, old people not shooting old people shooting young people shooting old people, people shooting people. It's not going to be solved. The problem is we have a culture of guns in the United States. And until we deal with that, this has become the 1930s, Rob, when the gangs were running the streets. And one of the responses was to get rid of what was called the Tommy gun or the machine gun, right? There was a time, think about the old movies when gangsters literally had machine guns. And then we said, as people of this country, you can't have those anymore. They create too much damage. Automatic weapons. Now we're going to argue about AR-15s. Something that a machine gun couldn't have imagined creating this kind of havoc. It's just, and by the way, the Second Amendment doesn't say you have the right to carry a gun. It says you have the right to bear arms. If you interpret bear arms as carrying a gun or carrying a certain kind of gun or carrying a certain kind of gun, you can make that interpretation and say that amendment applies to this, but that is an interpretive act that the Supreme Court has interpreted in particular ways. But it's not the same thing. So if you're in a conversation with someone and you're supporting Second Amendment gun access and you say the Second Amendment says I can carry a gun, it doesn't. The Second Amendment says you can bear arms and the government shall not infringe upon that right. Now, who the you is, whether that's but whether it's a militia or an individual, on neither count does it say you can carry a gun. So if you want to be a legalist about what the Constitution says, my rights that are defined, it's interpreted to mean you can carry arms that are in the shape of a pistol or an AR-15. You can't carry one that's an automatic weapon. If you saw Bowling for Columbine, you can't carry a rocket launcher. That's an arm. Like if you're an arms dealer, you're selling rocket launchers, but you can't carry a rocket launcher that's loaded with an RPG in it, right? So no, you can't just bear all arms. So if you're going to interpret the Second Amendment to mean guns, just know you're doing an interpretive dance. Fair enough. That's what we should do. But it's not because the Constitution allows it. It's because the Supreme Court in 2008 and 2010 allowed it.
Yes.
The Supreme Court used to not allow it. So what we're dealing with here is the interpretation of a right.
Yes.
And if that right means that people are going to die because you like the interpretation of the government and you want to be now, if you don't want to be a constitutionalist, fair enough. But if anybody brings up to you, the Constitution says, it's my constitutional right, it's helpful for a brief moment to say, actually, it says bear arms, not carry guns.
Yep, for sure. Now, Doug, I have 2 minutes left before I have to run today.
as you do,
Do we
as if
have the
Sherry is
video?
going to tell you.
Yes. Um,
No,
do
we have
we
no
have the
videos.
video of
We
Donald
don't.
Trump mocking Lindsey Graham?
No, but we have a
Oh,
picture of the video of Donald
oh,
Trump mocking Lindsey Graham. By the way, Donald Trump is running for president, by the way. Why do we talk about him here? Not because he lives rent-free in our heads. He might, but that's not why. It's because he wants to be president of the United States again, and he's a total clown show.
yeah.
What did he say in this little
This is
speech where you can see
apparently a
his
fundraising
K-hole
speech
open?
that he gave in Florida. And I don't have the whole context. This video, which I encourage people to find and watch, it's from MSNBC. Trump mocks progressive Lindsey Graham during fundraiser speech. It is a video of Donald Trump calling Lindsey Graham a progressive, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Interspersed with Lindsey Graham on Fox News begging people to send Donald Trump money.
I mean,
it's really great.
It's really stunning. It's really stunning. Well, the civil war inside the Republican Party continues. Donald Trump continues to whittle away the base on which he stands into now the teeniest little, two-footed.
Why he's taking shots at Lindsey Graham is beyond me. I don't understand that.
The man is not well. By the way, he's also caught up in a real civil lawsuit that's going to get him in all kinds of financial trouble, and he has other court cases that are coming down the pike. And he still could be the Republican nominee for president of the United States on the ballot in 2024. It's just simply stunning. Well, thanks all for kicking around with us on this fine Tuesday. Rob, we're going to get you out of here right on time because we don't want your watch or your phone yelling at you about that. So, we'll be back tomorrow. We have a faith day. You're going to want to be around for that. That's 10 a.m. on the Central Times zones. So those of you that know, we have different times each day because each day is its own special day. So find us if you're not over on YouTube yet. Find us over there. That's our favorite place for you to find us and us to find you. All right. And go to votecommon.good.com and sign up for all of our stuff so we can email you 4 times a week. Really. All right, good. Rob, anything else?
Great. No, this is a fun.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Debbie.
Doug Rant Day.
Making a fool out of hang on. Okay, somebody want me to make a fool out of myself. You drive without a license, you're driving illegal. You're doing illegal stuff. You're being illegal. No, you're not. You're not illegal. Your behavior is. Okay, bye. Wow, Rob is really consistent. Look at this. We're just going to have the silhouette of Rob, just the empty Rob hole. 10 o'clock, that guy is gone. And you know what? Like you, I have no idea what he does exactly at 10 o'clock Central Time on Tuesdays, but he does something. It's kind of cute. Rob's gone. Now, we're all going to be gone, but we'll be back here tomorrow. We're not gone. We're just off of this, and we'll be back tomorrow. All right. See y'all. Bye.